Hey, it's Francis Lamb, host of The Splendid Table. Every week on our show, we talk about food and cooking and the meanings of food and cooking. We talk with the most interesting people in food about their techniques, their culture, and everything in between. Whether it's about how fried chicken took over the world or how Instagram changes the way people are actually eating. It's a food show where everyone is welcome. Come join us. You can listen to The Splendid Table wherever you get your podcasts.
Westholme is working with the land to create nature-led Australian Wagyu. Westholme believes that when nature leads, flavor follows. Learn more at westholme.com.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
Well, hello. Welcome to All in the Industry on Heritage Radio Network. I'm your host and producer, Shari Bayer, and it is Wednesday, May 15th, 2024, and this is our 387th episode of this series, which is dedicated to behind-the-scenes talent in the hospitality industry. Today, my guest is the managing director for 50 Best, who is connecting with me from London, and I will introduce him fully in a moment. First, as I do on every show, I will start out with my PR tip. Then later, we'll have my speed round game, industry news discussion, solo dining experience, and the final question. As the founder of Bayer Public Relations, I'm going to tip the show off with my PR tip of the week. So today's tip is to build community. Yes, let's strive to bring people together by creating a sense of belonging, first with defining our purpose, and then by ensuring that people feel welcome and a part of. Communities can revolve around different things, whether it be activities and events, special projects, or celebrations. And they can evolve, growing stronger over time with its participants. Being a part of a community can be beautiful and fulfilling on so many levels. So let's remember that, as community is not one thing, but it can be everything. That's my tip today. Okay, so I'm super excited to have my guest joining me from across the pond. It is Tim Brooke-Webb. He is the managing director for 50 Best, the leading authority in global gastronomy and the international drink scene, showcasing worldwide trends and highlighting great restaurants and bars from all corners of the earth. With overall responsibility for 50 Best since 2009, Tim has overseen more than a decade of key brand developments, including the launches of Asia's 50 Best Restaurants and Latin America's 50 Best Restaurants in 2013, the start of the world's 50 Best Restaurants Global Tour in 2016, the acquisition of the world's 50 Best Bars in 2017, the launch of Asia's 50 Best Bars in 2018, and I can go on, but without further ado, hi, Tim. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me on your show.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you on, and as I said, I could go on and on. There's so much to talk about under the 50 Best brand and the work you've done over the years. It's quite incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. And we're going to dive into all of that. So, but first, I like to ask my guests to go back a little bit and tell us about your background and growing up, or what led you in this direction of working in publishing and working with restaurants.
Sure. So I was born in England. My father's career meant that we moved around a little bit. So I actually spent my teenage years in Belgium, in the French-speaking part of Belgium. And then I went to school in England at the time and went to university in England. And and then I left university and with a degree in English literature, with some drama, but mostly around Shakespeare, peppered in there. And with a degree like that, you have no idea what the hell you want to do with your with your life. So
I hear you.
I didn't have a job to go to, or a career mapped out for me. So I discovered a role which looked like it was paying a lot of money, and there was a basic salary, and then there was a commission on top, and it was selling advertising in a business directory for quite a reputable publisher out of the UK, a big one, but it was a UK based business directory, and that was really where I cut my teeth originally, cold calling small businesses and trying to sell them small advertising for small amounts of money. But I was okay at it. It wasn't going to be a career for me. I was okay at it. I made more than my basic salary, so I did get some commission. So I think I was okay. But that sort of started me off in publishing, and I moved from there into another publishing house, but selling advertising again, but a more sort of expensive form of advertising, full display pages in the finance sector in the UK. And worked my way up through there, and eventually became a publisher, and then a director of that business, and then I moved across into William Reed nearly 17 years ago.
Yes, and with William Reed, you worked a bit with Restaurant Magazine.
That's right. So when I joined William Reed in 2007, I joined as publisher of quite a big weekly magazine for the pub trade. It's a very old magazine, one of the oldest continuously published papers in the world, actually, called the Morning Advertiser. I've got a first edition on my wall back there, and it's from I have to look at it. It's 1794, would you believe? So that's how old that was. So it was quite a responsibility, because we had all that heritage to look after, and it was a weekly publication, so there was a lot of frequency going on there, and we had a lot of events. And anyway, I think after about a year, I guess, I was given more responsibility, and I took on some more magazines. One of those magazines that came with that was Restaurant Magazine. So at this point, I was now running a whole division at William Reed, and part of it was Restaurant Magazine, and part of Restaurant Magazine was this brand called the World's 50 Best Restaurants, which was quite small. It had, at that moment, it had one person working on it full time, and their responsibility was organizing all of the events, coordinating all of the sponsors, making sure that Restaurant Magazine did its bit and covered it, and that the editor of Restaurant Magazine had a script for the award ceremony. So it was one event a year, uh, really quite small, but had really big potential. I could see there that the caliber of these chefs that were coming to this funny little award ceremony in the UK, in London, with not huge production values back then. It just said to me, this is quite special, and it has a lot of potential. So yeah, I took on Restaurant Magazine. With that came World's 50 Best Restaurants, and I was running that, and it's still in a leadership role, but because it was part of a wider division, I wasn't as involved in it as I am nowadays. But I could see the potential, and eventually we separated the World's 50 Best Restaurants out from Restaurant Magazine, with the rationale being that Restaurant Magazine's a UK trade magazine. World's 50 Best Restaurants had the potential to be a global consumer brand. And the two weren't actually working well together anymore. So I separated the two of them out, I think probably in about 2010,
Okay,
and
yeah, I was
created a
wondering what
distinct
year.
a
Yeah.
distinct team, taking the editor of Restaurant Magazine at the time, and putting him in as full time onto World's 50 Best, and recruiting a commercial lead on there, an events lead as well, and just starting to think, what do we need to actually take this business and make it fly? And it couldn't be beg, stealing, and borrowing from other parts of William Reed or other parts of my division. It needed dedicated people on it. So that was probably the first of the seminal moments, I think, for 50 Best. That decision sort of started everything.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's incredible now to think, like 14 years later, all the different 50 best, I don't want to say spin-offs, but different divisions, like how it's grown. I mean, it's ask you, I mean, back then, did you even think it would become what it's become today?
Never even dreamed of it, if I'm honest with you. But it was that, I guess it was that little spark of this thing's got potential. Don't know what the
Yeah.
potential is just yet, but the potential as a global brand, just for world's 50 best restaurants, was huge. And I could see the sponsorship proposition developing very nicely. We were massively underselling the value of this product. And as soon as we started actually talking to commercial partners in a different way, in a proper way, and in a more strategic way, we realized that there were very different budgets to be unlocked here. And I think that sort of motivated us really to get on with making these changes. And in 2013, that was the sort of the next seminal moment for us. I think was when we launched Asia's 50 best restaurants and Latin America's 50 best restaurants. And that was motivated because we were looking at this list, looking at the makeup of it, looking at the history of it, and realizing really that this was a list that was quite dominated by European and North American, particularly US restaurants. And representation from Asia and Latin America was really very low, despite the fact that these had, incredible cuisines, pretty much undiscovered to the 50 best audience, that really needed surfacing, and they needed representation on the list. So 2013, we launched Asia's 50 best restaurants in Singapore. And then slightly later on that year, we launched Latin America's 50 best restaurants in Lima, Peru. So yeah, that was the first two regional launches we've done, and yeah, things have developed a lot since then.
I mean, yes, they have, but when you name those two cities, I'm like, and they're both, I'm lucky I've happened to have been to both, and I've experienced the restaurants there and the hospitality. So how do you pick your destinations, or how did you pick those to begin with?
That's a very good question. So, some of it is around the development of the restaurant scene in particular cities. So, we'll do some analysis. We'll talk to various stakeholders, whether they're the chefs or the academy chairs or our commercial partners. And once we can align everyone on our own thinking about what destination's hot, that's when we will put the pin in the map and say that's where we're going. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, none more so than having a restaurant scene that's very interesting and that people really want to engage with and discover. And we're not all about doing the most obvious. Sometimes we'll not choose the most obvious. We'll choose the next one because we are one of our pillars. One of our strategic pillars is around discovery, and we want to put a spotlight onto restaurants that are not necessarily been discovered before but deserve that international recognition. So if you
Yes.
look at somewhere like Lima, a Central has just number one. I mean, the restaurants were not represented at all in the 50 best list from Latin America, and then you fast forward, you can see the effect that having a regional list can have on the world list of just raising awareness of a restaurant scene, not of a specific restaurant, but of a restaurant scene or of a nation's cuisine. Raising that awareness just has that impact and gives people an opportunity. So yeah,
Yeah.
we
With Mido
selected
too, being on
and of
Latin
course Mido,
America's.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So suddenly everyone's talking about Peruvian cuisine. Everyone's wanting to go and visit Lima, and
I
I
want to
think
go back.
that's yeah, that me too. And that's part of the impact of 50 Best, that when we start talking about a destination, we know that builds up a huge curiosity amongst our audience. People start going there even before we take our event there. And that's really, really interesting. And it's sort of, it's quite humbling because it's a bit of a reminder that we have a huge responsibility here as 50 Best, that, we can be quite influential and we can be a bit of a destination maker. So we choose carefully.
Yeah. Yeah. So how does the list come together? And you mentioned academy chairs that you have. Talk a little about all the different players, I guess you'd say, with 50 Best now, because you have your internal team. I think you outsource a bit. I know now, having the opportunity to go to several of the events this year, and I've been connected with different PR companies you're working with in different regions. So I know you have some internal, you have you outsource a bit, and then you have the judges, or is
Yeah.
it just Academy chairs? Like,
So we
touch us
appoint
through that
the
bit.
Academy chairs. That's our responsibility, and there's nearly 30 of those. So we've divided the world
Oh
up
wow.
into these regions, representing the entire world. We appoint the Academy chairs in those regions, and we then task the Academy chairs with appointing their voters. And the voters are split between a third of the voters would be chefs and restaurateurs themselves, not allowed to vote for their own restaurants, of course, or anything that they have a financial interest in. Another third will be food writers and critics whose job it is to, talk about restaurants in the media generally. And the final 1/3 segment would be people that travel the world. We call them well-traveled gastronomes, people that travel very well, that eat in restaurants, that make a bucket list out of 50 best. Those sort of real foodies that quite often are well connected in with the restaurants as well. They know the chefs and they know our Academy chairs. So we rotate the Academy. That voting Academy has to be rotated by at least a third every single year, so it keeps it fresh, and it has to be gender balanced as well. So we ask all of our Academy chairs to recruit 50-50 male to female. And then
That's
in terms of
yeah.
support, I mean, my team here is 30 strong, and everyone is based here in the UK. I mean, we're an international team in terms of where people come from. But we're all based here in the UK, but we are supported everywhere where we operate in the world. We're supported by whether it's event production companies or PR companies, destination management companies. So we're 30. We're pretty small for what we output, but we rely on an awful lot of external help.
Well, your team's amazing. I said to William Drew, who actually I wanted to ask you how you guys work together, but when I saw him at Asia's 50 Best at the reception, I went up to him and I congratulated him and said it was amazing. But the one thing that blows me away, or did then and always does, is when you sit down at the awards and the first thing you show this extremely well produced,
Yeah,
awesome video of footage that took place literally a half hour, 10 minutes before we sat down.
yeah.
And that your team is able to capture those key moments with the chefs at the step and repeat and hugging and the
Yeah.
food and the whole event, and then you make this beautiful video production to kick off the awards. I'm like, how do they do that?
Thank you. They are miracle workers. Yeah, no, this is something that we
Seriously.
introduced. It's something we introduced a few years back because it was just, it was such a nice idea to capture that arrival moment of everyone and then play it back to them, and wow
Yeah.
everyone. Because I think a lot of people sat there and were thinking, oh, this must be last year, until they recognized themselves and what they were
No,
wearing, and like, oh my goodness me, that was literally 5 minutes ago.
it's so
so,
cool.
so it
It's
is
really impressive.
it's become a really important feature of our show. I mean, as I said, back in the day, our production values were quite low on 50 Best. Now, our 50 Best production costs an awful lot of money, and you can see it in things like that, where we can turn around, a video that was recorded and splice it all together and create something like that, the red carpet edit we call it. So it's that's a nice feature, and I'm glad you spotted it. So going back to
Yeah.
Will and
Yeah.
I. So I recruited Will to be the editor on Restaurant Magazine. Must have been back in 2010, I guess. Around the time when we took the decision that we needed to separate the two out. So he started his stint as editor on Restaurant, and then I grabbed him from there and put him onto 50 Best. So he's been there. I think he must be the second longest serving after me.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, I had him on my show last year before Valencia.
Oh, I see.
Um,
Okay.
I was looking what number is episode 358. If
Oh,
anyone
I'll
wants
go
to
back and listen
listen
to
back.
it.
Yeah, he was in New York, so we did that in person at the time, which was great.
Okay. I probably should
Um,
have listened to it before this, because I might say all the same things.
no, and I probably should have listened back, but it's there for content.
Okay.
Um,
I'll go and listen.
And yeah, I've had an incredible year. Well, not calendar year, but I was Valencia, and then I had the opportunity to go to Rio for Latin America's 50 Best, and then more recently in Seoul for Asia's 50 Best. And coming up, I'm excited to be going to Las Vegas.
We all are.
So yeah, let's talk about Vegas. I'm thrilled to be able to be a part of these events, and I think a part of my reason of my tip today of community is I've just sensed you have the awards and it's the celebration and it's the accolade, but there's definitely this huge sense of community I pick up and being a part of with the chefs,
Yeah.
and everyone involved. So I'm excited for Vegas. So how'd you decide on Vegas as your destination this year?
I mean, the truth is, I've been talking to various players in Vegas for about 6 years. So
Okay.
with a vision that we should be taking it there. So if you rewind a little bit further, back in 2016, we took the decision that we'd move the world's 50 best restaurants outside of London for the first time. It had been happening in London all those years, and then we just decided, look, this is a global brand. It doesn't make sense that it's in London. It says the wrong things about our brand. We're a proper global force, and we need to be moving around, and we need to take this community on the road. And when you use the word community, that really resonates with me, because that's the absolute secret source of what 50 Best is this community, extraordinary community that we build, not just of the chefs, but of people like yourself as well, and all the people that attend, people that watch from around the world, people that engage with us through social media. So
Yeah.
community really resonates. But back in 2016, we took 50 Best and we put it into New York. It was a really big statement, and again, we talk about these seminal moments. That was the seminal moment of making this properly international and making that statement. I mean, financially, it was a total disaster. Everything cost us twice as much as it did running the event in London, and we had no support from the destination at all. But we believed so strongly that this was the right strategy that we decided we were just going to go for it. So yeah, 2016 we started off. First venture outside of London was into North America. So yeah, as I said, with Vegas, it's been incubating for quite some time. One of our former Academy chairs, Mitchell Davis, in the US, he introduced me to a lady called Elizabeth Blau. Elizabeth is pretty well renowned in Vegas circles as someone who has really transformed Vegas as a culinary destination. Elizabeth and I got talking, and we realized we shared a lot of the same contacts, a lot of the same values and wishes and visions. And she helped me considerably with some introductions to the right people, to start talking to people at Wynn, people at Resorts World, people at Venetian, and also really importantly people at the LVCVA, the Destination Promotion Bureau. And we all came together and decided this is the right thing to do. And with 30 million visitors a year to this city in the middle of the desert,
Yeah.
and arguably a culinary epicenter for North America. It was just really obvious, and working with people like Wynn, who are one of the leaders in F&B across the USA, if not globally, and their footprint spans. We've worked with Wynn in Macau as well for Asia's 50 Best, so we're very familiar with their own values, and the way that they treat F&B is super high end. So we knew we had a lot of shared beliefs and vision here. So Vegas just became natural, really, and everyone you speak to is just as excited as you are and as excited as I am about being given the opportunity, really, to go to Vegas, on
Yeah.
the 50 Best tour, and to be able to do it
It's
in the 50 Best way.
yeah, and it's funny because just I was thinking last night about other cities. I've been to Vegas several times, and I was thinking there's nothing. It's so unique, but the one component of it, all the casinos, and I was trying to think of another city in comparison, and Macau came to mind, which I have actually been to because I took a trip to Hong Kong once, and I took the ferry over. But I didn't realize you had done an event there.
Yeah,
So
we were there
yeah,
2018, 2019 with Asia's 50 Best at
okay,
Wynn Macau, and that's really when we sort of started talking to
yeah.
Wynn about let's look at Vegas. Let's think about bringing the big one to Vegas.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I talked to Elizabeth Blau on my show in November. I was in Las Vegas. Talk about that a little later in the show, but we talked about World's 50 Best in Vegas and her involvement. And I've known her for a while, and she is definitely the person to be connected to. I mean, she really changed the dining scene there. And when you mentioned Mitchell Davis, I've known Mitchell for a while too. And he was on my podcast many years ago. Um, but I remember actually asking him about 50 Best and seeing my own involvement as someone who travels a lot and dines at restaurants. But pretty much, I think he said, I'm not eligible because I'm a publicist for some of the positions
I
of
see.
maybe voting. But I found my connection with my podcast. So
We got you there in the end.
yeah. But all wonderful people, and it's great that you connected you with Elizabeth and got to this point. So what are you looking forward to most now with what's coming up? Because you have the awards, there's also the signature sessions and the 50 best talks.
Yeah, so we've got an extraordinary series of signature sessions. We've got, some of the best chefs in the world coming to cook in some of the best restaurants across Vegas, creating, extraordinary dining experiences which are open to the public. So full engagement with the community there. I'm looking forward to that immensely. Unfortunately, some of them do clash with some of our own events, so I can't go to them. But as I said, the priority really is about engaging with the public with those. So I get to miss out. Other elements, we've got the 50 Best Talks, which is always, an unmissable event. Again, having some of the best talent in the world sit down and actually talk and reflect on some of the key issues that are going on around the place. Chef's Feast is just, I mean, that's an extraordinary event. Anyone who's been to one before, it's unforgettable. We put huge resource into this because it's the first time that the chefs come together in a media-free environment, so that they feel very comfortable ahead of the awards, and they haven't seen each other generally for a year since the previous edition, and so it's again community, bringing that community together. There's a lot of hugging, there's a lot of chatting, and there's a lot of sharing stories about what's gone on the last year. It's a really, really beautiful event. That'll be happening on the lawn at Wynn. So Wynn are going to put on an extraordinary chef's feast to welcome everyone there. The award ceremony itself, of course, is three events at least in one. So there's the big drinks reception beforehand with all of the sponsors activating, and opportunities to try some amazing liquids, some amazing foods. The award ceremony itself, which is going to be absolutely spectacular in Wynn's Theatre, the Encore Theatre. We've got lots of nice surprises in there for people to bring Vegas to life without giving anything away. Then there's the after party, which is going to be happening at one of the beach clubs in Wynn. So, again, extraordinary moments that are going to be memorable, hopefully, to all of our guests for years and years to come. And then we've got the closing party, which is happening at Resorts World. That's on the Thursday. Again, promises to be really, really nice moments, that last moment before everyone just disappears back home, back to the hard work, back to the hard graft of their restaurants. So lots and lots of events happening across the week. I've lost count, but I think it's probably nearly 20 things going on, just organized by 50 Best. And then obviously the destination itself comes to life. And I think one of the things that's been really flattering about Vegas is that literally 50 Best is one of the most talked about things that's happening in Vegas, alongside the Grand Prix, the Formula One Grand Prix, alongside the Super Bowl, and alongside the opening of that extraordinary Sphere,
Yeah.
which I had the privilege to go to last year and saw U2 in concert, which was the best show of my life. I mean, just extraordinary. I've never seen anything like it.
Well, that when I mentioned interviewing Elizabeth Blau, that is why I was in Vegas.
Ah,
I had been
okay. So we shared that.
I had been at a chef's conference in Los Angeles, and I saw I don't know, I saw teasers for that U2 concert, and I was like, I need to go see that. So I
Wasn't
flew
it
over and
amazing?
I saw the concert. So yes, I can relate.
Yeah, it was I mean, just an extraordinary show, like nothing you've ever seen before.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
Vegas has got it all. Amazing place.
it really does. It really does. So before I ask you my question for my last guest, just one other question with as far as the chefs who are there, have they been notified? Like, how does that process work? You reach out to chefs who are on the list
Correct. Yeah,
a little bit
exactly
in
that.
advance.
So we will notify those who are on the list in advance so that we can invite them to attend and they can get organised. Of course, we do not let them know what their position is. Of course, all of
Hmm.
that is a complete surprise on the night. So yeah, it's an important part of the sort of DNA to let them prepare, let them get themselves ready, and also to make sure that they attend. And I always think that one of the sort of strongest endorsements of 50 Best is that we don't pay for these chefs to attend. They attend, they fly and they accommodate themselves all at their own expense. This is not 50 Best putting on a junket for them. And for me, that's a real testament to what my team are doing here. That these incredible people, some of the most talented people, certainly the most talented people in culinary, are prepared to give up their time and finances as well to travel to where we are in the world to come and see this show and to find out what their position is on the 50 best list.
Yes. You do an extraordinary job putting your list or your lists together. It really it's the community and it's also just the caliber of chefs. I'm in awe. I don't know. I'm always like I love being a part of this industry and connected to chefs
It's
because I
extraordinary, isn't it?
feel yeah,
You look
they're
around that
extraordinary.
room, you look around the room, and
Yeah.
it's yeah, as I say, it's humbling. I mean, I'm really lucky. I've got an amazing team. Having a brand like 50 Best gives us access to some really great talent, and I'm always, whenever we're interviewing, we have really great choices. We make great choices on the people we hire. Um, you know, I'm very very blessed to work with the people that I work with, who really are the top of the game. And some of us have grown up together in publishing, in media, through 50 Best. I mean, as mentioned, Will Drew, he and I have worked together at least 15 years. There's Ricky, who's our operations director. She started with me as an events assistant, and now she runs the whole show. I mean, everything that you see is run by Ricky, and she's been with me for as long as I've been here. So 17 years. She's been here longer, not just working on 50 Best, of course. And then, we've got the commercial team, again, really fantastic bunch of people who work very closely with our sponsors, who are very selective about the sponsors that we work with. Our renewal rates are incredibly high from our sponsors, so that's a testament to them. We've got incredible multimedia team. They're the guys that are turning around what you see as that red carpet edit, but all of the videos that you see, all of that multimedia that you see on the screen is coordinated by them. PR team, such an important part of what we do. The social media team, I mean, our social media following is super impressive. So that's all down to them. The wider content team, everything that you read, down to them. The operations team. So we're a proper professional group now. I mean, when you think about where it's come from, just one person full time running this to 30, but divided into these sort of areas of excellence. They really are the special forces of the event world and media world, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I follow along on social. I've got your newsletter today. I mean, there's a you guys do an incredible job and there's a lot of content and
Yeah, and the newsletter. I mean, that's quite a new thing as well. We've started a digital team. We've got the marketing team supporting the digital team. So the reason why, and you think about what goes into it to get that newsletter to you, it's a huge, huge undertaking. And our digital has become incredibly important to us as well as a new way of building audiences that we actually have control of. So social media, obviously, they're not owned audiences, but when you build your digital presence with that newsletter, with the website, with 50 Best Discovery as well, which I haven't mentioned yet, but 50 Best Discovery is an incredibly important part of what we do now, spreading that light even further to give more opportunities to more restaurants, bars, and hotels, and to give our audience access to restaurants, bars, hotels that have been voted for by our academy. So yeah, our digital team produced that newsletter. It's written by the content team. There's contributions from other people within William Reed. There's digital marketing goes into that, and it's and the IT side, just making it all look the way it does, make sure it gets delivered. I mean, it's extraordinary amount of work that goes into every little aspect.
And you're overseeing all of this.
I have honestly, I have the great honor, and
Yeah,
that's
it's
why
amazing.
I've been
Amazing.
here 17 years, which feels like a very long time. In my previous job, I was probably in for 5 years or something. Feels like a long time, but I still feel like I'm getting started. And this business, William Reed is a family-owned business, not my family, I hasten to add, but owned by the Reed family, fifth generation. So Charles, who you've probably met, and some of your audience will know Charles Reed, who's my boss, is the fifth generation of Reed family who own the William Reed business, and 50 Best is a part of it, a small part of it, really. I mean, it's probably one of the biggest brands in it, but in terms of
Yeah.
the actual financial makeup of the business, it's significant. But there are bigger parts of the business than just 50 Best. So yeah, it's been a great 17 years, and I'm hoping for many more, because I've still got lots and lots of ideas, and I'm still very happy leading this extraordinary team.
Well, it's incredible. Before we take a break, let me ask you my question for my last guest. On episode 386, I had on Gabriel Ornelas. He's a strategist, producer, and founder of Studio Ornelas, and the host and producer of On the Past podcast, which is now celebrating its fourth anniversary. And apparently, he knows you, or you know him.
I do, I
um,
do. Yes,
yes, which I love that. I
I'm
love the
happy to call him
industry
a friend of
connection.
mine.
Fantastic. So his question is, he says, as an automotive guy, to merge the world of culinary and your passion for automotive, if there's a trip, almost like the Michelin guide, is there a specific route that you'd like to do and hit up a few restaurants? And what car would you be driving? And who would you bring along? And he also called you a man about town. He went on for a bit. A man about town who's traveled the world personally and professionally.
Yeah.
So
Okay. That's a really good question. So last year, I bought myself a funny Italian red sports car, and I've had this dream about driving it down to Italy, and yeah, almost sort of repatriating it, but then bringing it back home again, of course, because I can't bear to lose it. But I love this little car, and I really want to put some miles on it and enjoy it. It's very loud. It's quite cramped, and
it's a
it's it,
two-seater.
it's a two-seater, yeah,
Okay.
and
That
it's a convertible. So yeah, it's got a roof that
sounds like
comes
my
off.
type of car.
It's great fun. It's for those automotive nerds out there, it's called an Alfa Romeo 4C Spider. It's carbon fiber, and it's just super cool, and
Yeah.
it's made in limited numbers, so it's definitely a future classic and very collectible. And uh, so what would I do? I had this dream of like driving down to the south of France, visiting some of the vineyards on the way, popping in to go and see Mauro and having a meal down there at Mirazur, and then driving
Perfect. I
across,
like it.
taking the coastal route through Monte Carlo into Italy, taking in some of the Italian places, picking up Massimo as my passenger, because he's a car guy, and he's got some amazing collection of cars, as I'm sure everyone knows. He's not just a car guy, obviously. He's an amazing chef, and knows a lot of people, and is also a hotelier these days as well. So obviously we've got 50 Best hotels, and he's a hotelier, so we've got a lot to talk about. And then I want to
From
drive
his
up.
book, right? Low Food Fast Cars.
Slow food, fast cars. Yeah. So
Okay. Sorry.
He's got some partnerships with the likes of Maserati. I actually asked him before I bought this car whether or not I should, and he said it was one of his favorite cars. So I thought, okay, well, this guy knows a thing or two, so
Yeah.
I'll
Trust
buy it.
Massimo.
So yeah, and then having taken in the sort of northern parts of Italy through Turin, through Milan, I'd like to drive up to Lake Como, where our number one hotel in the world is, which is Pasalacqua, which was named last year in our inaugural World's 50 Best Hotels list, which is our brand new venture, as the best hotel in the world. I would like to go and visit there in my little Alfa Romeo and take Massimo with me, and we can just sit and talk about friends we have in common, food and hotels and drink, and we can hang out with the really amazing owners of Pasalacqua, Valentina, who's absolute force to be reckoned with, extraordinary hotelier, extraordinary woman, extraordinarily successful. Amazing hospitality, amazing attention to detail as well. And I haven't actually been there yet, but I want to go there in my Alfa Romeo. So that's my road trip.
It lived up to any expectation of what your answer would be. That's perfect. I mean, if Massimo can't make it, call me.
Okay. It's very cramped and very noisy. We'll give you some earphones or something.
Yeah, but I love convertibles. That's my favorite. And your destinations are, yeah. I hope you're able to do it because it would be a wonderful trip beyond.
Thank you. I hope so. It's still a dream at the moment, but one day.
Well, I think maybe there needs to be like a pause of 50 best for like a minute, and then you could take your trip and then come back.
That would be extraordinary. I
Not
mean,
gonna happen.
we have 8 50 best event weeks now happening in different parts of the world. So
Yeah.
almost every single month, apart from some of the summer months and December, there is a 50 best event happening somewhere in the world. So yeah, pausing is difficult. We're always traveling.
Well, yeah, no, because between the restaurants, the hotels, the bars, I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah,
It's a full
yeah.
year schedule
We got
for sure.
four restaurant events, 3 bar events, event weeks, I should say, because it's not just one event, and the 50 best hotels events now as well. So one of those, so 8 in total.
Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, on that note, let's take a little break. We'll come back. We'll play my speed round. We'll talk a little industry news, touching more on these topics. I have my solo dining experience as the final question, so stay with us. This is All in the Industry on Heritage Radio Network.
Whether you're a chef or just love going to restaurants, you know the best ingredients are everything, especially when it comes to beef. In Northern Australia, there's a different approach to raising high-quality beef. Westholme, based in Queensland and Northern Territory, is working with the land to create nature-led Australian Wagyu. Westholme stewards 16 million acres of rangeland, guided by their natural ecosystems. They're led by a belief that if they balance the needs of their cattle with the needs of the environment, both can thrive. Westholme's team of rangelands experts and nature managers use a variety of tools to monitor and respond to the welfare of the environment, like satellites that address grass health and on-the-ground research. Cattle are happier when they have the freedom to forage and explore, so Westholme ensures that they can roam wild, foraging at will for the first 2 to 3 years of their lives. Their cows graze on native grasses like Mitchell grass, which is only found in Australia, along with dozens of other plants, herbs, and seasonal legumes. The result is a high-quality Wagyu beef that reflects the terroir of Northern Australia and a flavor suited to complement any cuisine. Westholme believes that when nature leads, flavor follows. Learn more at westholme.com.
Welcome back to All in the Industry on Heritage Radio Network. I'm your host and producer, Shari Bayer. My guest today is Tim Brooke-Webb. He's the managing director for 50 Best. And Tim, it's time for my speed round. So what this is I'm going to name a couple things and you got to pick your preference, such as chocolate or vanilla. You ready?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
You're ready. You're very ready. Okay, here we go. Eat in at home or eat out at a restaurant?
Eat out at a restaurant.
Obviously. How about indoor dining or al fresco dining?
Al fresco dining.
Wine, beer, cocktail, mocktail, or champagne?
Oh, in order or all of them? Yes, 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 please.
I like that. Yeah, in order.
I mean, I always like to start with a glass of champagne. I always enjoy a cocktail because we've got 50 best bars. I'm very happy with a lovely glass of wine and absolutely a beer for the right occasion. Why not? Thank you.
All right, perfect. How about tasting menu or a la carte?
A la carte.
Okay. We
And
don't have
that's
to
probably
dive
a
into that
surprising
more.
answer because
Yeah.
I've done so many years of tasting menus, but also I have a few food intolerances that have come on over the years as well. So rather than sort of having to drag a chef through my food intolerances, it's much easier sometimes actually just to sit and order
Yeah.
what I want to have. So yeah, I always prefer an a la carte these days.
Gotcha. How about small plates or large plates?
Small plates.
Communal table or chef's counter?
Um, Is it a cop out to say both, depending on the occasion? If I'm there on my own, I really like the chef's counter, of course. But if
Yeah.
you're there with a bunch of people, I want to talk to those people, and that means that communal table is better for that.
Yeah.
Easier
I
than
hear
sitting in
you.
a row.
Not a cop out. I'll give it to you. Give it to you.
Thank you.
Okay, a few more. Tipping or all-inclusive charge?
Oh wow! I mean, you're talking from a US perspective here on tipping.
Well, it is more of a US based question. It's a big, I don't know. I like to say this could be its own show,
It
you
could
know.
be its own show completely because there's so many arguments. Personal preference is I would rather just have it included and avoid the awkward sort of calculation in my head and possibly getting it wrong and possibly offending someone or possibly overpaying them by an extraordinary amount. I totally believe in tipping. I think it's a really important element and it's a really nice way of recognizing the staff that have served you. And not only the staff that have served you, but I always hope that the tip stretches further than that back into the back of house, the people that you don't see. Um, but there are limits, I think, and US tipping culture. Yeah, we can start a whole show on that. I think it's not so much in the restaurants that I visit, but it's in other establishments where you don't even receive service, and someone, or not even someone, but there's a self-service till there, and it says add a tip for what? I mean, you haven't even interacted with a human being. so yeah. That
Yeah.
aside, I'm very happy with adding a tip to the bill. I'd rather it was done for me in many ways because it saves me having to work it out for myself, and then it saves any further embarrassments or awkwardness.
Gotcha.
What do you
Okay.
prefer?
Hmm. I don't think all these times I
Turn
play
the
this game,
tables
I don't
here
think anyone's ever asked me. I'm almost at 400 episodes. Um,
because it's an
I mean, I
evolving
see
thing,
both
isn't it?
sides. I think I like tipping, but I think it depends also. I mean, I have done a lot of tasting menus, or a lot of times it is all inclusive, and it's kind of nice that you don't have to think, or you
Yeah,
just kind of just show up and it's taken care of.
yeah.
Um,
But it can breed the wrong behaviors, and if someone just knows they're just going to get a tip automatically, does it change the way that they interact with you as a customer? Not in the most professional kitchens for sure, or most professional dining rooms, but I think in some of the more casual
yeah,
establishments, it can really, yeah, be a negative thing. Let's say all inclusive
yeah,
tipping. I'm saying,
true. But also, I mean, when you're saying about the tipping and not having to think, or I don't know, I was at a restaurant recently. I've seen this often where on the receipt they tell you like 20%, 18%, 22%, whatever. So you could just circle it, and so you do the math for you. Um, but yeah,
yeah.
it's not, I don't think it's a black and white answer on that
No,
one for
no, it's
anyone,
not. It's
including
not.
myself.
It depends on the restaurant. It depends on the circumstances. It's quite a personal thing, I think, as well.
Yeah.
And it's a developing thing as well because it changes, and it varies from country to country. In some countries, giving a tip can be insulting.
Well, for me, I do get confused when I'm traveling a bit. I don't know if I'm in Copenhagen or I'm in Seoul. Like, am I supposed to leave a tip? Because I'm
Yeah,
culturally like
I
used
know.
to leaving a tip. And then if I leave a tip, like what do you leave? Is it 10%, or it's sort of, you don't
It's a
know when
minefield.
you're on the road.
It's a minefield. Can you imagine a world where everyone is paid enough that we don't need to rely on tipping, that businesses pay people or they charge their customers accordingly and they value the product accordingly, that all the serving staff are front of house and back of house are all paid enough that
Yeah.
we don't need tipping anymore, and that they are trained accordingly, and that they offer the level of service that you get, whether or not there's a tip there or not, as an incentive. You'd hope that we reach a point at some point in our future, an evolution of restaurants, that people are so invested in, that they're looked after properly financially, and that they don't have to rely on tips, and that they're not incentivized by a tip to treat the customer with dignity and respect.
I hear you.
And vice
Yeah.
versa, by the way, and customers treating the staff with dignity and respect. And maybe a tip doesn't always encourage that. Maybe it gives some sort of different relationship to it.
Yeah. Well, okay. I mean,
Philosophical. We've gone down a rabbit hole here.
we really have. We really
Let's do a
have. I mean,
different series about this tipping.
well, because it's a longer conversation, and we've had a little bit of one, but yeah, it's not, I don't know, this is the one part of my game that usually people want to talk about or don't really have a clear-cut answer on it, because it's,
I've ruined your quick fire questions now with a
okay, well, okay, I got, how many? I got four more, quick. How about window, seat, or aisle?
window.
Okay, I'm a window. Um, I had convertible or Jeep, but I think you go with convertible. I'll ask you,
Convertible.
stick shift or manual or automatic? Or do you manual or automatic?
Oh, I mean, it depends on the car. It depends
Well,
on the
your little
car.
red car, I'm assuming, is a stick shift.
Do you know it's an automatic?
Really?
Yeah, it's got
Wow.
flappy paddles, paddle shifters. But my car before that was a manual, and I do miss the manual interaction. But, as I get a little bit older, I'm getting a bit lazier about changing gear. So it's quite nice when this
Well, you
little
got to work
machine
when
does
you're,
it
yeah.
does it for me. A little robot does it for me, and I can concentrate on the road rather than trying to get the right gear.
Yeah, no, manual, I don't know. I'm a little, side note, a few years ago, I was in Sicily by myself on a solo trip, and I used to have a stick shift car, but I was rusty, and I had this stick shift little Fiat, and after a few days driving around, I was good to go, but it was challenging at the beginning.
I bet. Yeah, especially if you're a bit rusty and trying to find reverse and all the crunching.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
pick
and where
the
you're going.
automatic transmission in future. That's that's the tip.
Yeah. But when it's really like you're really driving when you're, I don't know, you got a manual car.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the aficionado's position on it. I mean, having had both, I'd say it's horses for courses. Some cars really suit a manual. Some cars really suit an automatic gearbox, and it depends on your driving style and what you bought the car for, and
It depends.
it
Okay,
depends.
okay.
And it and
Fast will
and
do.
automatic gearboxes nowadays are so quick and
Yeah.
and so intuitive. Anyway, personal choice. Both is the answer.
Oh, okay. Cheese plate or dessert?
Oh, do I have to choose? Surely you get both.
I'm sure you get both.
I'm sure you get both. I mean,
You can have both. I'm
it
not going to
totally
stop you from
depends. I mean,
that.
I've got a terrible sweet tooth, so for
Okay.
me, dessert is everything. I spend a lot of time looking forward to dessert. So, but then I also love cheese. So, yeah, I mean, if I could
You
just
can have both.
skip to the dessert and the cheese course, no worries.
Fabulous. Okay, my last one is
I don't
Manhattan.
mean that. I don't mean that, chefs out there. I still love the entrees.
Oh, I don't think. Yeah, no one. Don't worry. Don't worry. You're safe here. No one's gonna take that literally.
Good.
um, Manhattan, Brooklyn, or London is my last one.
Oh, I really like Brooklyn. Again, really hard choice. I mean, there's three completely different places. I mean, when I'm in New York, I like to stay in Manhattan, and I like to go to Brooklyn. So yeah, and London's amazing. London's an incredible sort of crucible of hospitality these days, with extraordinary
Yeah,
restaurants and amazing hotels in London. I mean, we're truly blessed that we launched 50 Best Hotels in London, and there are most amazing 5-star hotels to be had. You just throw a stone in London and you hit an extraordinary hotel. So, and they're building more. So all three, but for different trips.
fantastic. Okay, we made it through the game. Not really speed round, a little speed round, but
Well, I
that
sat
was
on the
good.
fence a little bit, I'm afraid, on a few of those.
No, it was good. I like the conversation. So for industry news, I picked out an article from a couple weeks ago that I'm sure you're familiar with. It was lots of press on it, but the article I picked out was on Conde Nast Traveler, entitled "The 50 Best Bars in North America 2024" were just announced. New York and Mexico City continue to dominate the list, though unexpected destinations like Grand Cayman also make an appearance, by Charlie Hobbs. Um, so this I saw on, I know, well, I think you go to all of them, but you were there
I was there.
at the 50 best bars for North America. And um, so you started this awards in 2022, is that correct?
That sounds right. Yes, 20. I'm not good with
Okay.
dates. I had to give up
I
history because I
think,
was so
well,
bad at dates.
yeah, I think, well, that's what this article says. So we'll
We'll go with that.
we'll
2022.
go with that. Um, but this is exciting. I mean, living in New York, I'm familiar with a bunch of the places on the list. And actually, just this last weekend, I went to Super Bueno, which was the number two.
Ah,
I hadn't been yet.
and the highest new entry, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Came
Number
from
one
came from
was a
nowhere.
Handshake Speakeasy in Mexico City.
It was
And
absolutely
then two is Super Bueno in New York, and Overstory is number three, which I've been to too. Which is
beautiful
have
bar.
you been up there to
I
James
have.
Kent's?
I
Yeah,
have. I've been there a couple of times. The second time, the first time I went there, we that was when we actually launched North America's 50 best bars in New York, and so we had a little event in Crown Shy down below, and then we went up to Overstory. Uh, I mean, incredible bar, amazing talent, beautiful, beautiful drinks, and then you step outside as well, and you've got that incredible view right across New York.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, very, very well deserved. The second time I went there was when you had the smog ash cloud, I think it was, coming down from Canada. Was that last year? I think it must have been last year. And we weren't even allowed outside. We couldn't step out into the onto the
Oh wow,
balcony. So
you were in New York during I was here, but yeah, that was
when it was just
crazy.
red light,
Yeah, it was crazy.
that was crazy. It was madness. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, some hospitality venues like that must have suffered from being told that you can't let people outside because obviously there's seating capacity there, but also it's a massive attraction.
Yes. Well, it's stunning up there. And I love seeing these lists, and that, as someone who likes to travel, your lists are such great guides for, for people interested in checking out the best bars, the best hotels, the best restaurants.
Thank you.
So I,
Thank you. That's our mission. We want to inspire. We want to inspire people to go and try new places. We want to help people discover these hidden gems. And 50 Best Discovery is there to help people do exactly that. So I would encourage all listeners to Google 50 Best Discovery. It's on our main website, and you will, in theory, anywhere in the world that you go within reason, you should be able to find a 50 best recommended restaurant or a bar or a hotel there. So that's it's a bit of a well kept secret at the moment because we don't do huge marketing for it. It's a service to the industry more than anything else. It's not a big commercial venture. There's no booking fees or financial relationship. That's one of our big USPs, I think, at 50 Best, by the way. Is there is no financial relationship between us and any restaurant, hotel, or bar. We don't make any money from the bookings that they have or their attendance. We don't charge them to come to our events, of course. So it's a real integrity thing for us.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and that's great. And so it's time for my solo dining experience. And I'm going to run through this, but feel free if you want to chime in at all, because I think you should be able to relate. So this week it's at Casa Playa. Here's the rundown. The location: 3131 Las Vegas Boulevard, the Wynn Las Vegas in Las Vegas, Nevada. The concept: it's coastal Mexican cuisine focusing on fresh seafood, seasonal ingredients, and house-made masa program, and it also has agave spirits. The chef is Sarah Thompson, and the Wynn's VP of Culinary Operations and Development is Christopher Lee, someone I've known actually for a long time from when he used to work in New York City. So why'd I go? Well, back, as we mentioned on the show earlier, when I was in Las Vegas to see you two at the Sphere in November, and that was epic. And I did my interview with Elizabeth Blau, and that's episode 371. And we were chatting, and she's like, "Where are you eating in Vegas?" And I had one night left, and she's like, "You should go over to the Wynn." And I'm like, "Yes, I should go over to the Wynn." So
She knows. She knows the best places.
So I did. I went over to the Wynn first, and I didn't have reservations. But first I went over to Delilah, which is this kind of swanky modern day supper club. That's hot ticket to get into. Somehow I managed to get a seat at the bar, and I just had a little appetizer and drink just to check it out. I'd like to go back there and full dining experience. And then I walked through the casino to the other end, and I went over to Casa Playa, and spacious dining room, different bars, and I was able to get a seat there at the bar.
I sat there
And
myself.
Was that? Sorry.
I sat there myself.
Oh, cool.
You sure we weren't there at the same time doing the same things?
Well, when did you see you too?
Well, I think it was in November. It was when we went over and announced that 50 Best was going to be in Las Vegas.
I feel like
it was the first week of October. I was there well before you. I discovered it before you did.
Okay,
But I sat at that seat at the bar as well.
Yeah, well, it was lovely. And I had actually met Sarah, and this was in my personal fun fact coming up, but I had met Sarah in Valencia with Christopher and Elizabeth.
Yeah.
I went to one of the special collab lunches, the one with Mauro Colagreco of Merzer and Seto at restaurant Fiora. And they were there, and it was like, "What are you guys doing here?" And it was very cool because I met her there, and I knew Christopher and Elizabeth. So
small world, isn't it?
And that lunch was extraordinary, and Mauro's in my book, and it was just like I was like blown away. But so I kind of knew Sarah a little bit, but I asked for her when I was at the restaurant. She was there, but she was very busy. But her team took amazing care of me. What did I get? I got the octopus with coloradito mole and potato escabeche. That was an appetizer. I had the lobster tostada with pico de gallo and guacamole. And they sent me out this squash tamal with mole verde and Thai basil, and there were some chips and salsas or dips with it that came with everything. My take: all super fresh, delicious. I love the octopus, beautiful presentation, great mole, terrific lobster tostada. That was definitely a favorite, and tamal was delicious. Do you remember what you had?
Oh, I never remember what I eat. That's why I take a lot of photographs. My phone
Yeah,
is just
same.
long. But what I can tell you is I was blown away. Chef Sarah is an extraordinary talent. I mean, she trained under Enrique Olvera Pujol and Daniela Soto Innes as well in New York, and she's really found an extraordinary niche, I think, and Wynn have really got behind her and backed her. To their credit, they've spotted. I think maybe Elizabeth even introduced her in there. I don't know, but what a lovely restaurant! Great food, great drinks program, overseen by Mariana as well. It's just, yeah, everything coming together there. It's really beautiful food, really fresh, really and seasonal as well. I mean, the way that she respects the seasons is extraordinary, considering the dining that she has to provide for, or the dining audience that she has to provide for.
Yeah.
It's a really lovely restaurant, beautiful design. They'd redesigned it the second time I went there, so I went there, I think, the year before last, and then came back again last year, and I think it had quite a refresher. It's just, yeah, it's a real gem. So absolutely recommend to anyone who's going to Vegas, go to Casa Playa. And we've actually got a collab going on there as well with Elena Reygadas. She will be cooking best female chef from of the world from Rosetta in Mexico City. She'll be cooking with chef Sarah Thompson during the 50 Best week in a couple of weeks' time.
I have that in my notes, June 3rd.
June the 3rd.
Yes, Elena, she's amazing. I've been to a restaurant in Mexico City, and she's also a chef who's in my book, and I'm thrilled for. I think that's going to be a fantastic collaboration, and I think their space is like. I was looking back at my pictures. I took a picture in front of the entrance. It has all this orange, like little ornaments. It's like stunning and modern, but it's also accessible. I feel like it really works for, I don't know, as someone like, I went as a walk-in, I felt like I was just like, um, warmly greeted and able to have this amazing experience there.
Yeah.
So yes, I highly recommend it as well. And I'd say it's perfect for dining with friends or solo. And my interesting tidbit I had about the collab, and also I'd give a shout out to Jennifer Yee, who is a chef I know from New York. She used to work with Andrew Carmelini at Lafayette, and she's now the pastry chef over at the Wynn. And she's, I believe, doing the dessert at the collab that Elena and Sarah are doing. So
I think you're
that's
right.
cool.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm excited to see Jennifer. I haven't seen her in a while. She was in Atlanta for a bit too.
Okay.
Okay, so personal fun fact kind of ran through my experience in Valencia. Another shout out, Alon Shaya, who's a friend, just opened a restaurant at the Wynn. So I'm excited to check that out as well. He's got Safta 1964 opened a couple of months ago.
Exciting.
And I got a ticket to go see, to experience Anna Ross's collaboration she's doing
Awesome.
on with Sparrow and Wolf.
Sparrow Wolf, yeah.
So
That's on
I'm
the
excited.
Sunday, right?
It's on Sunday.
That's on the Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because I have not been to Hisa Franco yet, but one day I will get to Slovenia, hopefully. Meanwhile, you're bringing Slovenia a bit to Vegas, which is so cool. Okay,
And
so the
that's the
cost of
point.
me.
That's the point of the signature sessions, which is what we call the collabs. Is bringing a taste of a foreign country, of a foreign chef, to that local audience, and giving people who don't necessarily normally get that opportunity to travel, or wouldn't necessarily go there, just giving them the opportunity to explore other people's culinary heritage.
Yes,
The
no,
language of food, so powerful.
it's really, I love that component of the 50 best, because it's so true. Like bringing, yeah, you're bringing Elena, you're bringing Anna, all these chefs and their cuisine. And I find also, I think the chefs have a lot of fun collaborating with each other,
They do.
like
They do.
it's fun for them as well. So
Absolutely. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. And again, we're not paying them to do this. This is them
yeah.
believing in what they're doing here. And again, I think that's such a strong endorsement of the signature sessions, of the 50 best program, of the community itself, of how these people really get on very well with each other. And it's not about competition, it's about community.
I love that. Okay, to wrap things up, the cost of my meal was $63, not including tax and gratuity. Would I go back? Yes. Their website is winlasvegas.com, and Instagram at casaplaya.win. And for anyone who doesn't know, but probably everyone does know, it's WYNN. Win it, win. Okay, time for the final question. My next guest is Christina Gerdovic. She is the SVP of Partnerships and Content at Wonder, which is a fast-growing food tech startup that's changing the way people dine at home. And she's the former associate publisher and marketing director for Food and Wine magazine, which was an American Express publication. And I've known her for a while, Christina, or a lot of people call her Chris. And I'm excited to chat with her about her new role with Wonder. So, Tim, can you please ask a question for Christina?
Of course. Well, I haven't had the pleasure of meeting Christina, but I'm sure we have a lot of friends and contacts in common. And people often say that I have one of the best jobs going. It sounds like she's definitely a competitor for that title as well.
I would second both of that.
That's why I've been here 17 years. So
You're
I would
not leaving. Another 17.
give this up. You kidding? Yeah. So my question would be, I mean, one of my favorite questions for anyone is a very sort of open question, really, about why do you get up in the morning on a work day? Why do you get up in the morning? Because it just throws open so many avenues for an answer, and it's a really hopefully gives a good insight. So I'd like to ask her that. What drives you to get up in the morning? Why do you get up and go to work?
I will find out. And just to throw it out there, because I don't know if you know this, but her husband is Philip Baltz, who has Baltz and Company, which is a wonderful PR agency in New York that mostly represents restaurants. And so they're a bit of a power couple.
Power couple in the culinary world. Exciting.
So yeah, I will find out. That's good question. And I've taken a lot of your time. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been a thrill to chat with you, and love being a part of the 50 Best celebrations, and look forward to seeing you in Vegas. And congratulations on everything you've achieved and continue to do with the organization. I don't know how many more 50 Best you can squeeze into a year, but I think maybe you said you have 8 a year. I mean, you can add 4 more.
We could add some more. There's room. But thank you, Shari. Thank you for being part of our community and for being so enthusiastic about it. It's great to have you there. I'm looking forward to seeing you in Vegas, and congratulations on your podcast. I mean, 370, how many?
Where are we at today?
Must be more than that now.
We're almost at 4,
Getting to 4.
387.
That's extraordinary. Wow.
And
Well done.
It's kind of, yeah. I started in 2014 and I just keep going.
Well done. Thank you for sharing voices in the industry in the way that you do.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And yes, look forward to seeing you. Congratulations. And what did I say? Viva Las Vegas.
Viva Las Vegas. See you there.
See you there. Okay, so my guest today has been Tim Brooke-Webb. He's the managing director for 50 Best. His website is theworlds50best.com, and on social media, you can follow at theworlds50best and at Tim Brooke-Webb. You can follow me at Shari Bayer at Bayer PR and at All Industry. My Facebook page is All in the Industry. My websites are BayerPublicRelations.com, ShariBayer.com, and AllInTheIndustry.com. All of our shows are archived at heritageradionetwork.org. We're also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Check out my book, Chefwise, Life Lessons from Leading Chefs Around the World by Fiden, available wherever books are sold. Many of the chefs in my book have been a part of 50 Best, so I'm looking forward to seeing who's in Vegas and celebrating with them soon. Thanks to my engineer today, Armin. Thanks again to Tim. Thanks to Erica and David for helping out with the show. I am your host and producer, Shari Bayer. So I have a bunch of special episodes coming up, including from some travel I've done, some chefs from Copenhagen. So that's what's coming up in the next couple of weeks. And then the show with Christina Gerdovic will be on June 19th. So till then, enjoy the shows, enjoy award season, as I'll call this June coming up. And thanks, as always, for being part of All in the Industry. Bye. All in the Industry is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.
Hi, listeners. We want to tell you about a podcast we're really digging. It's called Christopher Kimball's Milk Street Radio. Every week, they travel the world to find the most fascinating stories about food, including children who harvest cod tongues after school in Norway and a detective who tracks down food thieves. And on Milk Street Radio, you can always find the unexpected. The comedian who ranks apples using an elaborate 100-point system, the secret history of grocery stores, and how to eat your way through Italy. They also interview the most beloved names in food like Jacques Pepin, Sola Awali, Jose Andres, Jet Tila, Ina Garten, Nigella Lawson, and Padma Lakshmi. Plus, co-hosts Christopher Kimball and Sarah Moulton do live calls with listeners and answer their questions about ingredients, techniques, and culinary mysteries. Like, why roasting a leg of lamb made one caller's oven explode? Ever wonder why your bread won't rise or your souffle falls flat? Chris and Sarah have the answers. You'll also hear from a rotating cast of contributors, including Kenji Lopez-Alt, Cheryl Day, Dan Pashman from The Sporkful, and Alex Ainuz, a French guy cooking from YouTube. Take a listen at 177milkstreet.com/radio or just search your podcast app for Milk Street Radio.